think, well, for whatever reason, those mails weren't being delivered, and I added a whole lot of stuff in there to confirm that. So I think in hindsight, I should have just calmed down and just listened to you for 10 minutes as you explained what you'd already done. But in any case, the only real changes we've made is when we add these recipients, we create the record, we display it. We don't necessarily have to display it in the group, but because we're setting it in the custom state, there's nothing wrong with the custom state approach. Just the custom state approach permits it to be blank, and it could be blank, whereas this forces it to be set, and it will come up as a red error checker if this wasn't set. So when we add these recipients, we, as you were doing, conditionally add the recipient, and the one thing we did change is we added the record on to the recipient, and then we did some UI stuff, and we then add the recipients onto there, and you need to expand that to be 5 recipients. Then in the notification bit, this is the bit that we were stuck on. We do this, we create the link, which is fine. For whatever reason, I'm not receiving emails to those Bob email addresses, and I created a debug thing, which is kind of a handy technique to see if things are being sent as we expect. It's just a bit quicker than looking in the logs. And then we empty it out of the custom state to clear it out, which you were doing. I added this page, test any emails are being sent. So any emails here, test sending any email. And that's how I figured out the emails weren't being delivered. I don't know what the problem is exactly why they're not being delivered, but they were delivered to this one. Then on this screen, I then got the email. I signed up with an account with WAPDAT, and you can see in here, I think there's a bit of database design thinking you need to do, because obviously one requirement of this database is that unless you're a recipient to a record, you shouldn't be able to see the record. And if you are logged in, you shouldn't be able to see any other users. So knowing that that's a design thing that we absolutely have to get right, we have to design the database in a way that means we can apply privacy rules so that this can occur. Because, for example, the reason this user here, wapdat@gmail.com, can see that name is because of this privacy rule here. It's allowing anyone to see first name, last name. We're not having to search. It's finding that because because you can see any field on here. It's finding them that they're the fields that are attached to the record. It's finding them on here, but when we put privacy rules on here, it says we're going to have to think about the privacy rules to make sure that these are not publicly visible. I mean, it's going to work right now, and I had to add those on to make it work right now because of this rule, but we have to think about these rules. You can delete this table if you wish. So one technique you use to get around privacy rules, or not get around, but so to have privacy rules so they work, and what will probably happen is on this create a record here, when we send notifications, rather than send them on this button, we'll send them to a back-end workflow, and that back-end workflow will then do the work, and back-end workflows can ignore privacy rules. So that's a good technique for working nicely with privacy rules. In any case, because I logged in with the same email address as was on the notification, then I can see those records. I guess the point is how we do that with phone numbers now. And what would probably do, thinking about it, is on a user we would have a phone number, and we would let users see. We would search the recipient table where the phone number was the same as the phone number on the user, which would then give us the records. So, and we could test that pretty easily actually, but using the same technique, and it should just work. And we could continue building the app on like this, but I think at this point it would be worth pausing to think about designing this database so the privacy rules work the way we expect they will work. But I'm sorry that was such a frustrating session, and I think it was all just down to those email addresses not working. So you can delete that. You can delete the. You can delete this debug table, and you can delete this test page. Anyway, there you go. I hope that moves you forward a little bit.